Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, the most important day of the week, and it is July 10th. That's right. It is 710 Day, all you wooks out there. Today is National Clarahoo Day, and that is a poem of 4 lines for all of you that don't know. It's also Global Energy Independence Day, so you know what I'm going to say, Matthew. Drill, baby, drill. And, of course, for Gretchen, today is National Pina Colada Day. It's also Chronic Disease Day and International Town Criers Day. And if you don't know what a town crier is, I encourage you to Google it and check it out, because it's the person in the center of a town square that's letting you know everything that's going on. And, of course, it's also National Kitten Day, along with the dabbing holiday that all cannabis people know, which is called 710, July 10th. Oh, yes. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to find out where we live at the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Twitter Spaces. And if you are joining us in Twitter Spaces, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But we're going to kick it off today with Gretchen Gailey. She's our feisty, redheaded conservative who loves to tell pot-loving libs all about themselves and send them home crying with their little blankies and wee-wee bags. Oh, yeah, not to mention that, she can also find her walking her dogs up and down Capitol Hill, parading as mascots for some team that doesn't even play any sports. That's right, it is none other than the Gretchen Gailey.
I don't even know what that means, Jason Beck.
It's because you dress your dogs up in costumes, Gretchen.
Get over it. All right. So my headline today is coming from, again, the front page of the Washington Post. I love when drugs make the front page of the Post. And because I'm an old lady, I get the Post every morning on my porch and pick it up. So I'm going to read directly from the paper. What the hell? Portugal grapples with drug decriminalization doubts. Addiction haunts the recesses of this ancient port city as people with gaunt, clumsy hands lift crack pipes to lips, syringes to veins. Authorities are sealing off Warren-like alleyways with iron bars and fencing in parks to halt the spread of encampments. A siege mentality is taking root in the nearby enclaves of pricey condos and multi-million euro homes. Portugal decriminalized all drug use, including marijuana, cocaine, and heroin, in an experiment that inspired similar efforts elsewhere. But now police are blaming a spike in the number of people who use drugs for a rise in crime. In one neighborhood, state-issue paraphernalia, powder blue syringe caps, packets of citric acid for diluting heroin, litter sidewalks outside an elementary school. And see, old school, you have to actually open the paper. And then it's a whole damn page. Here we go. All right. Porto's police have increased patrols to drug-plagued neighborhoods, but given existing laws, there's only so much they can do. On a recent afternoon, an emaciated man in striped pants sleeping in front of a state-funded drug use center awoke to a patrol of 4 officers. He sat up, then defiantly began assembling his crack pipe. Officers walked on, shaking their heads. Portugal became a model for progressive jurisdictions around the world embracing drug decriminalization, such as the state of Oregon. But now there is talk of fatigue. Police are less motivated to register people who misuse drugs, and there are year-long waits for state-funded rehabilitation treatment, even as the number of people seeking help has fallen dramatically. The return in force of visible urban drug use, meanwhile, is leading the mayor and others here to ask an explosive question. Is it time to reconsider this country's globally hailed drug model? These days in Portugal, it is forbidden to smoke tobacco outside of a school or a hospital. It is forbidden to advertise ice cream and sugar candies, and yet it is allowed for people to be there injecting drugs. We've normalized it. This is according to the mayor, Rui Moreira. Cocaine production is at global highs. Seizure of amphetamine and methamphetamine have exploded. Multi-year pandemic deepened personal burdens and fomented an increasing use. In the United States alone, overdose deaths fueled by opioids and deadly synthetic fentanyl topped 100,000 in both 2021 and 2022, or double what it was in 2015, according to the National Institute of Health. 85% of U.S. prison population has an active substance use disorder or was jailed for a crime involving drugs or drug use. Across the Atlantic in Europe, tiny Portugal appeared to harbor an answer. In 2001, it threw out years of punishment-driven policies in favor of harm reduction by decriminalizing consumption of all drugs for personal use, including the purchase and possession of 10-day supplies. Consumption remains technically against the law, but instead of jail, people who misuse drugs are registered by police and referred to dissuasion commissions. For the most troubled people, authorities can impose sanctions, including fines, and recommend treatment. The decision to attend is voluntary. Other countries have moved to channel drug offenses out of the penal system too, but none in Europe institutionalized that route more than Portugal. Within a few years, HIV transmission rates via syringes, one of the biggest arguments for decriminalization, has plummeted. From 2000 to 2008, prison populations fell by 16.5%. Overdose rates dropped as public funds flowed from jails to rehabilitation. There was no evidence of a feared surge in use. None of the parade of horrors that decriminalization opponents in Portugal predicted and that decriminalization opponents around the world typically invoke has come to pass, according to a landmark Cato report from 2009. But in the first substantial way since decriminalization passed, some Portuguese voices are now calling for a rethink of a policy that was a long, proud point of national consensus. Urban visibility of the drug problem, police say, is at its worst point in decades, and the state-funded non-governmental organizations that have largely taken over responding to the people with addiction seems less concerned with treatment than affirming the lifetime drug use should be seen as a human right. Yada, yada, yada. A newly released national survey suggests that percent of adults who have used illicit drugs increased to 12.8% in 2022, up from 7.8% in 2001, though still below European averages. Portugal's prevalence of high-risk opioid use is higher than Germany's, but lower than that of France or Italy. But even proponents of decriminalization here admit that something is going wrong. Overdose rates have hit a 12-year high and almost doubled in Lisbon from 2019 to 2023. Sewage samples in Lisbon show cocaine and ketamine detection is now among the highest in Europe, with elevated weekend rates suggesting party-heavy usage. In Porto, the collection of drug-related debris from city streets surged 24% from 2021 and 2022, with this year on track to far outpace the last. Crime, including robbery in public places, spiked 14% from 2021 to 2022, a rise police blame partly on increased drug use. Yada, yada, yada. You can keep reading this if you like. It goes on for quite a ways. Basically just talking about all the problems that this policy is now, that they are now seeing. And there was one quote, where was this guy, that I found particularly interesting. Here it is. When you first back off enforcement, there are not many people walking over the line that you've removed, and the public thinks it's working really well, according to Keith Humphreys, former senior drug policy advisor for the Obama administration and a professor of psychiatry at Stanford University. Then word gets out that there's an open market, limits to penalties, and you start drowning in more drug users. Then you've got a stable drug culture, and frankly, it doesn't look good anymore. So according to these folks, 20 years after decriminalization, Portugal's going to hell in a handbasket, and they're starting to rethink their policy. Do you think that Portugal should be the crowd that we're looking to for answers? I know so many are. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
I mean, I have just a couple questions. First of all, sure. Gretchen, what is methamphetamine? Or maybe this should be for you, Chris.
Oh, well, let me double check. What
I think it was misread or
that was
mistyped meth.
methamphetamine.
Oh,
Yes,
methamphetamine. Okay, all right. Just
My
wanted to
bad.
make sure. I didn't know if Facebook came out with some new drug or something all of a sudden.
It probably would.
Okay. I know
I think the interesting thing, and Chris Eggers, I'm sure you can speak to this. It talks a lot about how the police just don't care anymore, because that's the main way that this thing is supposed to work. Like, you're not supposed to be doing public consumption and stuff, and police are supposed to ticket you and refer you to these rehab centers, but the police are like, doesn't matter. No one cares. Not working. So the police don't care anymore.
The police aren't therapists.
No, I get it, but they're supposed
They're
to
not
be a
trained-
ticket
they're not
for using a syringe. That's
The
how
police
it
aren't
works. It's gonna
therapists, they're
send
not-
you to jail.
Right, but they're not therapists. They're not trained as therapists, and I could see them being like, "It's the use." And the biggest thing is decriminalization in and of itself isn't some silver bullet or some magical sweep of the pen that's going to solve everything. There's a lot of stuff going on behind this. So number one, inflation. That Portugal's having the same rent type crisis that California's having. Rents are up like 1,000%. People are homeless everywhere. Inflation is at record high in Portugal. It's one of the poorest countries in all of Europe. And one of the biggest things about all of the drug addicts and homeless you see in America, just like in Europe, is like real easy sign that the system isn't working. Majority of these people have been traumatized in childhood, either violently or sexually. And you add on top of that people who just can't afford to live inside because the pay scale doesn't add up to what you need for rent and food. So a lot of these people are seeking escape. And decriminalization, as you can see, HIV deaths went down from under 20 from 1,000 plus a year. Overdoses down by a factor of 1,000. All of these things, even with this minor spike in the last couple of years in Portugal, are still well below the majority of Europe, well below Portugal's pre-decriminalization rates. What we really have to look to is it's not just about making drugs legal; it's about getting these people real help. And when we have these, when you have hundreds of thousands of people homeless on the streets, it's time for us all to begin these conversations about the system that we have is not working and it's not serving anyone but the 1 to 10% at the very top. Until that is addressed, none of these little Band-Aids are going to provide us any relief.
Gretchen.
Yes.
Gretchen, you also mentioned in there, and I heard you say something about a whores parade in Portugal. Can you elaborate on that?
I think you're hearing things, Jason.
Well,
Beck.
that's why I'm asking for clarity. That's why I'm asking for
I did
clarity.
not say anything about a whore parade.
I thought you did.
Clearly you got something else on your mind this morning.
No. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I even throw in the chat.
Well, all right. Tell Adam to check your audio levels there. I don't know.
Maybe.
So another position here point that I did not get to. They keep referring back to Oregon because clearly Oregon has taken the same position in certain cases, and they're suggesting that currently overdoses in Portland have surged 46% this year. Mm-hmm. That's not good.
The big reason for overdoses surging is fentanyl and how dangerous fentanyl is to dose, and the fact that fentanyl is being added as an admixture to counterfeit prescription drugs, which is a huge market, as well as cocaine. Another person.
Would you make the argument then, Mathieu St. Germain, to decriminalize some drugs, not all drugs, because clearly some drugs really are bad?
Would make the argument to decriminalize all drugs because at least then we have a chance of having drugs that are what they are purported to and supposed to be, and we can actually begin tackling the societal ills. Again, real problem is capitalism. I'm not a communist, maybe straight out right, and I do believe in some element of the free market. The free market is about individual humans trading goods and services for the benefit of the community. Capitalism is about accruing wealth in as few hands as possible so that there can be a ruling oligarchy over all of us, and there can be a few billionaires and everybody else gets a slave yoke. It's back to work. And we can see drastically that it's not working. And a lot of these conversations that we have, while the nexus seems to be drugs and drug use, you begin to look into them, what you actually see is institutionalized white supremacy, family dysfunction because of poverty and institutionalized white supremacy and lack of opportunity and education, and that creating a class of people that are just near zombie pariahs that nobody wishes to help, that are thrust out onto the streets, that turn to drugs because of the direness of their life situation. We can have or illegal drugs, and illegal drugs are going to cause more negative fallout than legal drugs. But legal drugs are not the solution. The solution is all of us going up, taking a deep breath, looking around, and admitting that even if we have been able to wiggle some slack out of this system, it's not working for the majority of human beings on this planet, and it needs to change.
So what's your solution there, Mathieu St. Germain?
Stop treating housing as an investment opportunity. Start realizing that all human beings need a house to live inside. Food and education to human beings. Train people to be more ethical because people actually want to help. Get trauma services. Dial down the for-profit prisons. Dial down the amount of CHP and state police officers we have. Use that money to begin treating people who are victims of childhood sexual trauma and childhood violent trauma. Again, just
I hear you.
All of us coming to the table with the realization that the situation's not working for everybody, and we're either going to get to a point where people are just being eaten in the streets, or we're going to fix it. And if you look around, like, remember growing up, were there people just walking into Walgreens and everywhere and just stealing $10,000 worth of merchandise? Were people going in 20 and 30 deep and looting Lululemon and these different stores?
Happening.
They weren't.
That's still happening.
Weren't.
I hear you.
I know it's happening now, Jason. That's what I'm saying is like that shit. There wasn't just wholesale rioting and looting and wholesale thievery gangs just operating at the level that they are now. There wasn't the amount of homelessness. All of this stuff has continued to accelerate since the Reagan years as we all, not myself, but as so many people just worship trickle-down economics and the thought that if we give all the money away to billionaires, somehow the crumbs that fall off their table are going to reach all of us, and next week we're all going to be millionaires, so let's not change any of the laws because I'm just about to be rich.
Okay, hold on here. So I just want to take this discussion back to Portugal. So things that you're suggesting, like housing, like rehab, all this type of stuff is available to their folks, and things are voluntary. And that's what they're suggesting in this article is people aren't taking advantage. People don't want it. They're not using it. They're just saying, screw it. I'm still going to do crack on, my kids' elementary school steps. I
understand.
Giving people the options is not working either.
If we look, we have a multi-thousand-year system that has been destroying the soul of humanity, and I don't think it's going to get better in a decade. I think it's going to take quite a while.
So you would let this system continue on?
Number one thing I would do is I would start doing. I would change the laws
I'm talking about Portugal.
Yeah, we're talking about Portugal.
Okay. I'm talking about Portugal. I would just change the laws to make it so that people, if they were not able to care for themselves, they would have to actually be remanded to a facility where they were helped and taken off the streets.
Well, and that's what the cops are supposed to do, but the cops are saying that it doesn't work.
The cops don't have that power. They only have the power to ticket people.
They have the power to send these people in front of these commissions. But it's voluntary for the people to show up for the commission.
Yeah, how are you going to get these people to show up when they're just
problem
high
is that
on
it's voluntary.
drugs? They're not going to just show up for a commission when you're getting high on heroin.
Chris, what do you think from a former police officer's standpoint?
There's a big trend, correct. There's a big trend happening that's been happening within law enforcement that people don't like to talk about or won't talk about, and that's like the fireman mentality, as they call it. I'm going to sit inside the station and just go out to a call when I'm dispatched and put my blinders on because, the thought process with a lot of cops, I'm not saying this is my opinion, I'm telling you what the industry thinks, and not everybody, but it's a growing trend that, hey, I'm just going to put my blinders on and answer my call for service and come back to the station because I don't want to get in trouble. Nothing happens anyway. They're not forced to show up to court, et cetera, a whole bunch of rules. But there was this push for a long time, and it was called LEEDS, LEEDS. It was grant money that came into San Francisco and other cities. And there was this huge push from the top that ticket people using drugs, ticket them. And then what you would do is as you give them the citation, you would call this like community ambassador from LEEDS, and they would come out and talk to the person and offer them, rehab or various other services. And the thought process was, I don't think it's in effect anymore, I didn't see it working myself on the micro, but they thought was that if somebody accepts services, then the ticket kind of goes away. But in San Francisco, the ticket went away anyway. that was a program called Leads. I found it to be really interesting, and I don't think it's involved anymore, but it was a ton of, millions of dollars of grant money. I know they sent SFPD cops up to like Seattle or Portland or wherever it was based.
I remember that.
To go learn about this program. Yeah. So another sort of trend that I've constantly seen in law enforcement is like flavor of the week, right? And I say that doesn't do it justice because these are like actual real problems, but like, that's sort of the thought process and mentality that there's like, hey, within law enforcement, there's just no consistency. You're told one thing, hey, focus on this issue right here. And then you're not told that anymore. And then it's like, hey, focus on this issue over here. And then it just kind of like, I have no idea where Leads is today. I couldn't tell you.
I can tell you they're not in the lead. I can tell you that much, Chris. But
I know I just told you we should move on in the back channel, Jason, but one last question. So pretend Portugal says, all right, this isn't working and changes. Do you think that's going to really set back other countries' legalization efforts?
Wait, can you
It may well. But I think another thing that we need to really look at is what's the difference between legalization and not, right? Like legalization is keeping these folks out of the criminal industrial complex. I'd rather see these people going to a hospital than going to jail and dealing with the gangs and the violence and sexual assault and all of the things that happen in our current penal system. I think that for one thing, it just keeps going back to the same thing over and over, is that the system itself is not working. It's not functioning. And anyone who goes outside and lives in a city see that. And if you think it's working the way it's supposed to, I don't even know how to finish that sentence. Hey, what do you think in Washington? Do you think see a rise in homeless in Washington, Gretchen?
Oh yeah,
like
it is out here.
I wouldn't say there's a major rise in here. I mean, the homeless population seems to be what it's always been. We did not have major tent cities and that type of things like you saw when they did Occupy Wall Street and all that. I mean, that stuff moved along. But like in my experience, when I went last time I was in Portland, which has been a couple years, there was a great homeless population there. There was a ton of people there. That you don't see that around DC. I mean, yes, there is homeless, of course, but no, I have not seen that.
Hey, there's
a great gentleman named Joao in the chat who actually lives in Portugal and has given some great information.
What's he saying? I'm not monitoring.
First off, he was saying that the cops are in fact ticketing. The majority of cops are ticketing and addressing it, and that they were supposed to have a lot of safe usage centers, which they're about 20 years behind on the opening of the safe usage centers. And that he's saying, in his opinion, Portugal is never going to go back on decriminalization.
I mean, I don't see them necessarily going back, but I am all for funding of mental homes to house these people in, because they definitely should not just be able to just run around on the streets like crazies.
So in the 70s, Reagan shut down all of the mental health facilities for people who were
mistake.
He shut down all the mental health facilities for people who were not like criminally insane and who were there voluntarily and or who had these type of problems. Moved all of that money to the CHP, the California BNE, which is the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, and to prison building, because Reagan was a fascist. And after he did that and ruined California, really bankrupted our entire economy, somehow he was able to leverage that into winning the presidency. And then he went and did it to all of America. And all of these Republicans still continue to worship Ronald Reagan, who basically bankrupted our economy, caused the homelessness problem, preached just say no while he was slinging cocaine to the inner cities because he hates black people. And those fruits of the Reagan administration are where we are today.
Whew, that was some spice.
Oh man.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Mathieu St. Germain is back with us, guys, and we're going to go over a commercial real quick. We'll be right back.
Welcome back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
All right, you guys, I have a pretty spicy story for you guys today. Are you guys ready for this? It deals.
I'm ready.
Yes, it deals with Virginia. That's right. Virginia's for lovers, but not cannabis lovers, because Youngkin Governor Youngkin is not interested in legalizing marijuana sales in the state of Virginia. Governor Youngkin's administration gave its clearest indication yet that the governor has no plans to open up a retail adult use cannabis market during his term. What people are saying is Governor Youngkin has stated that he is not interested in any further moves towards legalizing of adult use cannabis. Joseph Guthrie, Youngkin's commissioner of the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Safety, said during a recent state meeting on cannabis per the Daily Progress. In another quote, he says, "So I wouldn't expect that during his administration." And a little bit of context on this. In the past, remarks Youngkin has provided taking a firm stance on the issue and has often responded to questions by saying it was up to lawmakers to send him legislation. And why all of this matters is because Virginia's marijuana laws are a mess after lawmakers legalized possession of the drug, but failed to reach an agreement on legal marketplace for adult use cannabis users. And Guthrie's remarks could help explain why GOP leaders in the House of Delegates refused to bring up legislation on the subject of hearings over the past 2 years, even in cases when the bills were proposed by members of their own caucuses. Man, oh man, oh man. I know everyone in Virginia is going to be crying about this one and not going to be happy that all they can do is pass around seeds and possess cannabis, but they just can't go to a store and go and buy it. What do you guys think? This is Jason for the High at 9 News Hour. What do you think? Virginia. So Virginia is not for lovers of cannabis. Is that the moral of the story, Gretchen?
Well, this doesn't surprise me, and I believe you, Jason, back were saying when Youngkin was elected that he was a capitalist and he would be on board with it.
I didn't. Well, you're misquoting me. He is a capitalist. He is a capitalist, and I said that he does need to evolve on the issue, and I said that there are some great people on his team that are pro cannabis, and so I expect him to ultimately evolve on this issue. That is what I said.
He needs to evolve faster. And also, there also seems to be just a regular pattern in all sorts of elections. There's one who's for and one who's against, because you have to have the other part of the vote.
That's right.
Guaranteed. You got to have it in the bag. So this is just another one of those moments, I think.
I do think Youngkin will evolve on the issue when he sees how Maryland starts doing. I think if Maryland's adult use market really takes off, I think you're going to see a lot of angry Virginians, because if you don't forget, the bulk of Virginia's population is the DC suburbs. So those people are going to see what's going on in Maryland. It's not going to be hidden from them. They're not going to want to drive to Maryland. Trust me, these people don't even like coming in the city. They ain't going to like driving to Maryland to get drugs. So not happening. They're going to bitch. And they're the people who are going to reelect this man if he wants to get reelected. So I think it'll come about.
Oh, so you're agreeing with me then, Gretchen, is that Youngkin is going to evolve on the issue.
You said, Jason Beck. No.
You just did. You said he's going to evolve on the issue. That's exactly what you just said.
Some bullshit two-step to pretend that you never said he was going to evolve. I said to you that
Mom and Dad are fighting again.
A long time ago he was going to evolve, but apparently you were wrong there.
Evolution takes time, Gretchen. Stop the cap.
We'll see. We'll see. But I think it's going to take a little while. But yeah, I think he's going to have to listen to the will of the voters. I think people are going to be pissed.
You think he's going to have to listen to the will of the voters? And we got, oh shit, look at that. We got Rico back from traffic court. What do you think about this, Rico? Being from Virginia and all, Governor Youngkin says, someone from his administration says that he's not going to be doing anything with adult use cannabis under his administration.
He ain't shit, man. Youngkin ain't shit.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't nothing gonna happen. Same shit, different toilet.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right.
Together here.
All right. We're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna move it on over to Chris Eggers, former law enforcement. Now he likes his blunt over a notepad. He's also the founder of CCC Security Solutions and will help you make sure that your facility is safe against predatory robbers. That's right, it is none other than the Christopher Eggers.
Happy Monday, everybody. Rico, welcome. We missed you this morning. My article today comes out of Union City. Is not great news, but I thought worth sharing. Headline reads: Suspects sought in attempted robbery shooting at Union City cannabis dispensary. The police in Union City have launched an attempted murder investigation and are searching for multiple suspects after an attempted robbery and shooting at a cannabis dispensary Friday morning. So at about 1:35, officers were called to a dispensary on Courthouse Drive in Union's Landing Shopping Center after a panic button was activated. On-site security then told police that the suspects forced their way into the dispensary to steal property, but when the suspects were confronted by the security, police said that the suspects began shooting and struck the victim. The victim suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The suspects fled the scene before the police could arrive, and additional details about the incidents were not immediately available at the time this article was written. This dispensary, according to California Department of Cannabis Control, and this article has been licensed since June 2021. I know somebody who works within the Union City Police Department, and I'm working to get some additional information specifically around what transpired when the security guard confronted the robbers. This is just, it's super unfortunate, obviously, and but I think important to note, that this is a real reality today, and every facility has its own unique facts and circumstances. Specifically around security guards, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the product or the solution, right? And how that factors into each unique facility. So just wanted to share that this Monday morning. My name is Chris Eggers. Thanks for letting me contribute today.
Oh man. So there was a shooting. Can you tell us any more about this shooting?
So I was told that the security guard was shot in the arm. And unknown if the security guard was armed or unarmed, or armed potentially with less lethal, and if it was used or not. So waiting to hear back, but there might be additional details coming. Not saying that there was anything wrong done by the security guard, but interesting to see, what details transpire.
Question, because law enforcement hasn't really been that helpful in regards with any of these cases against criminals coming against cannabis businesses. Do you think that because these criminals shot the security guard in the arm, that is going to raise the level of enforcement, that these law enforcement officers try to actually investigate this case to find out who actually did this?
I think any crime against any tax-paying business should be treated seriously by law enforcement, and we know that cannabis doesn't get that same love, and they should, and it's wrong. It's unfortunate, but I think that maybe this is something that is going to be taken, air quotes, more seriously. But then, there's a further discussion, and not for now because it's a long one, but about how to fortify a facility in a manner that doesn't put human life at risk, and stakeholder, professional, and personal liability at risk as well. Interesting. And I just think it's important to note, right, that like security guards don't deter crime, and this is a unfortunately a good example of that. Security guard was there, the bad thing still happened. A lot of facilities are hiring overnight guards for the sole purpose of calling law enforcement, but there are better, more cost-effective ways utilizing technology to achieve that. But the status quo exists.
Can you explain why they don't? Why you say security guards don't deter crime?
Because they don't.
They don't.
I'm asking the expert, Jason Beck.
I am an expert.
Yeah, there's people coming to Union City. Here's one example: Livermore, the town I was born and raised in, a suburb of the East Bay. These cities are targeted. Cannabis facilities are being targeted, and offenders are coming with firearms. That's the answer. That's fact. And so it's not like a night burglar, trying to creep through the back door anymore. It's coming deep with guns. And so we need to have realistic conversations about what the security guard's role is and what the goal of a security guard is. And again, there's newer technology that we utilize to bring better security coverage with less liability. That's more cost effective if the goal is to just get law enforcement there. as quick as possible. So offenders are no longer scared of guards. I mean, they're just not. I think it's a trend that we're going to unfortunately see continue to some degree.
Hold on. Do you think they ever were afraid of guards, Chris? Because I don't think that they ever were.
I don't think so. I mean, no. Listen, and here's the broader conversation about guards is just like any other profession. There's entry-level pay rates and expert pay rates, right? And so you get what you pay for. Now, because of a lot of different factors, cannabis facilities cannot afford a more expensive guard solution. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of, in our experience and what we see out there at dispensaries, it's an entry-level guard position, and that's fine. But it's important to set realistic expectations about what that guard is capable of doing based on their own training and experience. Just like any other profession. And I will add that COVID decimated the guard industry, which was already a difficult industry to staff. COVID has had a huge negative effect on that industry as well.
Interesting. Seeing no other comments, we're going to go to a commercial and we're going to be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that like button. And make sure you check out all the articles at our website, www.highat9news, where you can read everything that we are talking about. And coming up next, that's right, she's a mom. She's an edibles judge for the Emerald Cup, along with someone who wants to show women how being a mom and an executive lifestyle can all go hand in hand. That's right. Coming up next, none other than the Manndie Tingler.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Today's article headline reads, Jackie Kennedy learned marijuana was growing on Cape Cod property, fought to keep it quiet. You guys may have heard that there's a new book regarding Miss Jackie Kennedy. And in this book, there is an allegation that the late Jackie Kennedy Onassis fought to nip it in the bud, that there was a particular problem, quote unquote, in their Cape Cod garden. As in the book, White House by the Sea, by Kate Story, the former First Lady learned that marijuana was growing in her garden, much to her horror. According to an excerpt obtained by Town and Country, it was around 1975 when Kennedy's assistant noticed some of the family members poking around in the garden, which piqued her interest. After realizing she had stumbled upon something nefarious, she told former police chief Jack Dempsey, frequented the property with the Secret Service. Neither her assistant, Kathy McKeon, nor Dempsey believed the gardeners were responsible, so they told Onassis about their discovery. Are you kidding me? She alleged, said to McKeon, who told her the news directly. Oh my God, this can't get out. How are we going to fix this? McKeon led her to Dempsey, and the former officer told Onassis, according to the book, to just ignore it, we'll pull it. The book said she was satisfied with this and felt good that the news wouldn't be getting out. Later that day, Dempsey and the Secret Service destroyed the plant. Neither of the Onassis children, Caroline and John, were suspected of planting the marijuana. A representative for her only living child, Caroline Kennedy, the U.S. ambassador to Australia, did not immediately respond to Fox News' digital request for comments, nor did the John F. Kennedy Foundation. You guys, there's been lots of allegations and speculation about the Kennedy family and their elusive, lightweight relationship with the cannabis plant. Around 1975, Caroline would have been around 20, and Junior would have been about 15. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about this magical plant just popping up in the Cape Cod garden at the Kennedy home?
Well, first of all, it was outdoors, so you know it wasn't any good. Maybe that's why she had that
I'm
reaction.
blaming it on
I'm
Teddy.
picturing
I
some
think it was
garden
all
with like
Ted
a
Kennedy.
rotunda on it.
What's that, Gretchen?
I said I'm blaming it on Ted.
You're blaming it on Ted. Oh,
Yep. I mean, the whole family had access, and there's 50 million Kennedys out there, so
There are.
it's not like Jackie was the only one living there with her kids. They were all coming and going.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very true. But who planted the beans?
We may never know.
Who's the real Johnny Appleseed Kennedy?
Who's the one who's the narc right now? What's his name?
Who?
Jason, you know what I'm talking about. The Kennedy narc.
The Kennedy narc.
Not Patrick. Was it Patrick? There's one who's like totally against cannabis right now, and I bet it was him.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
bet some girl broke his heart and took away his pot or something. It was probably this incident. The Secret Service took away his pot, and now he's against cannabis forever.
I mean, in all fairness, that
His
does
girlfriend
happen.
probably broke up with him for someone who used pot, and that's what he's really mad about.
I'm looking it up.
Oh, probably because the other guy probably had better weed. Yeah. I do think you're all right. I think it is Patrick.
It's Patrick Kennedy. Yeah. Patrick Kennedy's a part of SMART. He's a part of that.
Yeah.
Jag off.
Yeah.
I just thought that this was a really fun little anecdotal article to share and wanted to get your guys' feedback on it. So thanks for humoring me.
I feel like this was just like a promotion for her to sell more copies of the book that's coming out, and then just try to get the weed people to buy it.
It definitely piques people's interest, but it's such a small portion of the book, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who wrote the book, Manndie?
Her name was or is.
Is she a Kennedy?
She is not a Kennedy.
Yeah, I doubt that.
Let's see, where is. I'm going to have to go back and re-scan it. Oh, Kate Story. Torey. An author.
What's her affiliation with the family? Anything? Nothing? Okay.
It doesn't say that at all. She just, it doesn't disclose what her relationship was with them. I'm sure that's
very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Kennedy Kush, now available at a dispensary near you.
I love it.
Yes. Adam, do we have one more commercial, Adam? Yeah, let's run it.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good Thing the Law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, yes. Coming up next, that's right. It is the immortal Count himself. Been around for thousands and thousands of decades, but yet still only looks like he's in his young 40s. That's right. How does he do it? How does he do it? Oh, we don't know, but maybe he's going to explain with his story, because he has a pretty interesting story today. It is the Count of Saint Germain, Mr. Mathieu St. Germain.
Jason, hi everybody. Happy Monday. I've got a great story in that it really shows a lot about bridge building, talks about bridge building. Oh, the headline comes from the Washington Post, and it's AOC and Dan Crenshaw, the mellow struggle for psychedelic drug access. First time Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez introduced legislation on psychedelic drugs, the proposal came with an unwanted side effect. Senior Democrat laughed in her face. She recalled literally mocking it. Then the amendment, which was attached to a large-scale spending bill, failed by a 331 to 91 vote. It was a frustrating experience for the Congresswoman, only 6 months into the job. It was 2019, not 1969, and there was evidence that drugs such as psilocybin and MDMA might offer therapeutic benefits to those suffering from depression, traumatic stress disorder, and addiction. Although she wasn't opposed to legalizing such drugs to some degree, her bill wasn't even about that. Simply about removing federal barriers that scientists said made it harder to study the therapeutic effect of psychedelics, namely ending a long-standing federal policy prohibiting the government from spending public money on any activity that promotes the legalization of certain drugs. 4 years later, the idea isn't seen as quite so funny. Shift in attitude about psychedelics on Capitol Hill since Ocasio-Cortez first introduced her bill is, in a way, reflective of the New York Democrats' experience in Congress. The parable of shifting perceptions, things eventually get taken seriously. In days of that first vote, Ocasio-Cortez said her colleagues were bombarded with calls from constituents, including military veterans and victims of sexual abuse, in support of the legislation. She said the same members who were laughing about the bill were apologizing to her for not fully understanding it. Next time Ocasio-Cortez offered a psychedelics amendment in 2021, the number of people who voted for it jumped from 91 to 140. And last year, both Ocasio-Cortez and Representative Dan Crenshaw, a Republican from Texas, passed House amendments on studying psychedelics, though neither made it out of the Senate. There aren't a lot of issues that Crenshaw, a conservative former Navy SEAL, and Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic Socialist former bartender, agree on. Psychedelics is a rare topic that fires up grassroots activists and big money investors. So far proved difficult to pass any bills related to psychedelics. This is not because of any organization, but more because of fear of change of something new and fear of the drug war. Orders of psychedelic drug legislation are banking on the fact that these drugs have proved to have a specific quality to them, namely that they offer something for all sorts of constituencies. Coalition working on chipping away at issues in Congress includes not just improbable allies such as Ocasio-Cortez and Crenshaw, but also an eclectic group of activists and lobbyists, veterans and survivors who travel to the Hill in hopes of people opening minds. Psychedelics had a really bad rep with Timothy Leary and the turn in on drop out, or whatever the hell that phrase was, Bergman said. I believe there is a place and a need for better therapies and better therapists in our world. I don't partake, said Representative Louis J. Correa, a Democrat from California. I like vodka martinis. That is what works for me. He said he used to smoke cannabis in junior high, often while watching Reefer Madness on VHS with friends for a laugh. He became vocally anti-drug as he got older and saw the destruction that drugs, alcohol, could cause. The congressman grew up in an alcoholic family and saw firsthand how messed up that environment could be. He also saw drugs such as heroin devastate the lives of Vietnam War veterans. Grow up with this stuff happening and it calibrates your mind to a certain mindset. Though it ended up being a veterans community that helped Correa change his mindset, after being elected to California State Senate, he kept hearing from members of the military who were having a difficult time getting medical marijuana and how the medical marijuana was basically helping these guys, right? Skipping to Crenshaw, Crenshaw says he's a Marine. He talked to a Marine that tried to kill himself 4 times. Mr. Crenshaw that nothing helped him at all until he got himself into a psychedelics treatment program with MDMA. How this man was an advocate for psychedelic medicine. The more he looked into the issue, the more signs appeared. He started hearing from more friends who had positive experiences with psychedelics or the desire to try them. He heard from frustrated members of the military who could drink themselves silly and be prescribed all sorts of pharmaceuticals but could not even take CBD, alone Ibogaine or MDMA. Nearly 17 veterans dying by suicide each day, according to Veterans Affairs. Some clinical trials showing promise that psychedelics could offer a meaningful reduction in symptoms of PTSD. Shaw decided he would do his part to help change the perception on drugs. Not even on the marijuana bandwagon, Crenshaw said. He has come to see psychedelic treatments as chemo for your brain, for your demons. On June 14th, Crenshaw and Ocasio-Cortez have launched another bill for psychedelics to treat PTSD and traumatic brain injuries for active duty service members. Last week, the coalition received news that it was poised for a bipartisan win in the Republican-controlled House, and good news that it may, in fact, pass the Senate. Anything that advances empirical research and healing, we are totally supportive of. In America, usually the only way to make change is incremental change. Legislation does not legalize psychedelics or even make them readily available as medicines. To make the drugs a little easier to study and easier to understand. That's often how views soften and moods change in Washington. Microdose at a time, suddenly everything looks different. I have a real quick editorial before I hand this off. First off, Tim Leary demonization that they talked about. Tune in, turn on, drop out wasn't actually the end. It got cut short by the news media and people seeking to demonize Timothy Leary. What he was talking about was the same thing we were talking about in that Portugal study is tuning into the fact that our current system isn't working, dropping out of our current system in hopes of creating a new system. And dropping out only meant dropping back into a local mode in order to really start local power centers and force positive change. Also, Tim Leary ran against Ronald Reagan in the 70s for governor. Reagan set him up on a weed bust and got him 10 years in Folsom Prison because Leary was actually polling that he was going to beat Reagan on the platform of legalizing cannabis and using the tax money to pay for road improvement in schools, right? Next, that one representative talks about how he saw people with an alcohol problem and heroin not performing well, and then he just scaffolded that onto cannabis and psychedelics, and that's a big problem with a lot of people. They get into alcohol, meth, and hard drugs. They put every other drug in that category, and all of a sudden, all of these drugs are verboten, right? And now, one of the things that this bill really points to is the fact that we need to help our veterans, especially those with traumatic brain injury and PTSD. First off, with therapy and psychedelics to help them integrate back into our community. Secondly, by closing all these overseas military bases and stopping this forever war for other people's resources, so that we don't have to end up wholesale fixing all of these people that are committing suicide on the daily, involved in domestic abuse, getting locked up, and just unable to reintegrate into our society. I think this is a real fruitful jumping off point for discussion. I'm really interested to hear what you all have to say, and this is Mathieu St. Germain for the High at 9 News on a Monday.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Some real bipartisanship going on, Mathieu St. Germain.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate that because it shows that, really, when we start to build bridges and find commonality, what we find is actually much more alike than we are different, and that's the only way we're really going to get to change is by finding things that we can agree on and working towards them.
Very, very true. What do you think about this, Gretchen? Dan Crenshaw, AOC?
Well, it doesn't surprise me because honestly, they, as Washingtonians go, they are of the younger generation. And so I think they would be more willing to work with each other and across party lines to get something like this done. That doesn't shock me.
A lot of courage. I think she takes a lot of beating from her colleagues, and she's always sticking her neck out there and really like trying to push the needle forward. So.
Interesting. And
Saint Germain, I wasn't clear from your story. What exactly would this bill do?
So the bill is just trying to make it easier to actually study psychedelics, and with a focus on active duty service members.
Okay.
Because of psychedelics being Schedule 1, it's very difficult. Although it is possible, it's incredibly difficult. It's a very difficult process to get these things okayed by the FDA and the DEA for study.
Rico, are you with us? Rico, I see you talking, but we don't hear you.
I can hear Rico.
I can hear him.
Hear me?
Oh, now I hear him. All right.
I just
Rico.
say, big ups to Dan Crenshaw
We
for
can't see
bucking the
him.
trend and working with AOC and not listening to all that bullshit. No?
Okay, well, I still think she's an idiot on most issues, so where do you want me to go with that?
I think.
But I think there are places where, yes, people can cross the aisle. And I think when it comes to mental health, and especially our veterans, I think that lawmakers from both sides are that's a bridge they're willing to cross. I think you will see this pass. I don't see any reason why it would not.
Which is great for all of us.
Interesting. Well, Rico, you ready? Are you with us? You ready to go into your story,
I'm good.
Rico?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. You sound great now. Now I can hear you. We're gonna go into the dope
Can you hear
dad. Yeah, we hear you. We hear you. Are you all right over there? Just having technical difficulties. I hear him.
We can all hear him, Rico. Just do your damn story.
Yeah, Rico, just do your story, Rico. We hear you.
I'll just do my damn story.
There we go.
Gretchen. Big shout out to AOC too. AOC for president, Jason.
Yes. Yeah, right. That'd be the worst thing anyone ever voted for.
Speaking of AOC, we're going out to New York City. Kind of, for my story. So put another big win on the board for Gretchen Gailey's favorite Democrat governor, Kathy Hochul. This weekend is Long Island's first recreational dispensary opened up Saturday in East Farmingdale. Per the article, a line of prospective customers was formed outside Strain Stars, excited to be the first to make a purchase. Family-owned business is the 19th cannabis dispensary to open in New York, a far cry from Hochul's projected 20 per month. But it's another open, and that's a good thing, right? The state legalized recreational consumption back in 2021, but only 4 towns in Long Island have chosen to permit for retail. Congrats to Strain Stars and the Long Island community on the opening. But I'm wondering, is this going to make a crack in the trap? I don't know. Open it up to y'all, man. There's a quick one from me. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. What do you think about this one, Jason?
I mean,
it's Long Island, but 19.
Shout out to this. We have a video from our friend. Our friend was at this Golden State Bananas. We have a video, and then they had a pretty massive line going on. We got this video going, Adam? Oh, he's saying to wait a second. But anyways, shout out to New York. Shout out to these guys. Yeah, what's that, Gretchen?
Big shout out.
What? I didn't say a damn thing.
Oh.
I think Jason Beck, you're the one with the audio issues here.
I may be. It's possible. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff in my headphones today.
I think that, everyone is disappointed with how New York is rolling out, but it's rolling out. It's taken longer, but they're trying. They're working on it. And you can't expect it to be perfect. I'm sorry. We haven't seen any perfect rollout. So I don't know why everyone thought New York was going to do this amazing job.
I think it's because they hyped it up and said they were going to do such an amazing job, and they weren't actually realistic with their own expectations, Gretchen. I think that's what people are expecting.
Everyone says they're going to do an amazing. No one comes out and says we're going to do a shitty job opening our market.
Well, you know what? They could have came out and just said, hey, you know what? It's going to be a slow rollout, and we're going to do the best job that we can to expedite it as much as possible. They could have just said that, and they would have saved a lot of face.
But they were really
saved a lot of face if they had actually raised some money for all those card licenses that they gave out first.
Oh, all those curd licenses. Yeah, that curds and ways. They got nothing in their way.
Hey,
no, oh, there it is. There's the video right there. Lines on lines on lines at Strain Stars, Long Island's only.
Strain Stars.
Long Island's only place that you can buy adult use cannabis legally in the state of New York. On Long Island.
I also think it's heartening to see that there are long lines. Long lines is a good thing. This means the public is interested. They want to try and adopt a regulated market.
You think so? I think those are just all people that are all just mad at their normal dealer, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go check it out so I can check this place out and see what's up, and then realize that all the products in there are boof and terrible, and then I'm just going to go back to my regular dealer.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, Jason Beck, but
you don't have to agree with it, Gretchen.
I think one thing New York has done extremely well is getting people into these shops to go shopping. I think yes, we hate the 1,500 pop-up stores that are out there, but
do we hate them?
Going
really?
in them and buying them. No, I'm saying people are using them. I'm like, everyone's like, all right, trap, I'll buy indoors, cool. And I think that's the first step to getting people to adopt a legal market. They don't want to hype that from a PR standpoint, but I think that's one thing New York has done right.
I mean, I like what Guap says. He says, all I see is Chads wearing jeans and flip-flops.
Well, it's Long Island. What do you expect, Guap?
Oh, dude, don't diss European American culture, you guys.
I think somebody should just bite the bullet and just make a Chad brand. Just come out with the Chad brand, Chad weed, and
fully
just
embrace it.
Just own
I can't do cargo shorts, dude. You can't put anything in those pockets. They make your shorts fall off.
That's why you're supposed to wear a belt, Matthew.
You don't have enough of a butt there, Mathieu St. Germain.
You're wrong, dude. You are wrong. I just about get up and show it to you, dude. I'm actually known for my fucking beautiful ass. Thank you.
That's right. Wear a belt next time. Wear a belt. That's all we have to say today. Just to wear a belt. Whatever you do. Yeah, wear a belt. It's safer that way.
Wear a belt and say what you felt.
Yeah, it'll save you from the drop downs.
I guess. But
I think a thing all of us can do on this Monday is like take a look around. Take a look around at your community. See if it's working or not. And if it is working, great. Like help us with some tips and tricks on how to make our communities work. If it's not working, let's not react with hostility and fear as we have, but let's like really open our eyes, open our minds, and open our hearts. Come together to just admit to ourselves it's not working and find a new way forward.
And open up them spots for licenses, Kathy Hochul.
I'm just saying, they've issued lots of licenses, Rico, frankly.
Yeah, 20 a month, like she said initially, right?
And I'm not saying 20 months. They've issued a shit ton of licenses. No one has any money to actually open their doors.
Oh, that's what's going on?
That's
Yeah.
the word
I
on the
want to say they've
streets.
issued close to 100 licenses. I'm not crazy. Look it up.
That
The bulk of them
150
are all
million,
card licenses that don't
well,
have any money to open the doors.
well,
And then the other
I'm
ones
pretty
are all
sure that-
stuck in purgatory with DASNY and trying to figure that whole mess out. It's a whole regulatory nightmare, but the issues the licenses have been put out.
Well, I'm pretty sure the lawyers are looking over that paperwork on that $150 million loan that that they got sitting on their desk right now that was supposed to be given to them in the first place. So bait and switch, bait and switch, bait and switch. And it was never going to happen in the first place. So big shout out to the biggest winner in all of New York cannabis, Ruben McDaniel.
Oh.
And
Is
on
he
that
not?
note,
Oh man, Rico,
Is he not?
Yeah, Rico, you got this. You got this, Rico. You with
I
us?
got it, man.
All right, all right.
Let's close it out. Thank you all for joining us for today's episode of High 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast, crack of dawn over in Hawaii. Big shout out to the Superfan Show and Love, getting their comments projected live on the big screen. Also to the live audience members and online supporters catching us across all media platforms, tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos. To our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table. To our production team, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, Vortex, all our sponsors helping us keep the lights on, keeping our AV struggles to a minimum. And of course, the lovely Jaja Simone holding us all the way down on other spots, making sure that we're coming through clean. To the haters out there, we love you so much. And you know what? Get your Tevas on and make your way out to Long Island. Got some great cannabis waiting for you out there. Always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason why we show up every day to read these headlines. Thank you, too. It is Monday, July 10th, 2023. The show's over. You've all been blessed with today's top headlines. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. Manndie Tingler, got the outro today. What you got for us? Carmen, Sacramento.
It's Monday. We've got a nice bright week ahead of us. Get it.